It's an honor to be here. Thank you guys for inviting me. You know, I gotta be honest with you, when I came here and I was thinking about what I wanted to say and some of the stories of what God is doing in my city, in Torrance, I felt a little reluctant because I see, and I'm going to be overgeneralize, so forgive me, but Christians are lazy. And I'm thinking, how often, and I'm guilty of this too, we tell our story and we want to copy that story and we want to bring it back into our city because it's working there. Oh, it's a great story. I mean, I feel that temptation right now as I'm hearing all these stories, right? Or there's so many great books, right? And you read the great book and as pastors, we read them, we're going to implement this in my church, right? And I think we are under an avalanche of good ideas, right? And so I was up here, I'm reluctant to tell my story. You can even download your sermons on the internet now. And I'm thinking, where's the Holy Spirit in all this? And, the difficult part is waiting on the Holy Spirit to speak and to listen and to allow Him to lead, right? And so I'm going to tell you some stories, but that's kind of, that's my angst up here. But what I want to get at is actually not just my story. The stories of actually what's happening right now, and I will touch on that. Because there's some exciting sort of kind of finished products of sorts that I can tell you, right? But it looks beautiful when you look at it. Kind of like the analogy I was thinking about, if I tell you my stories, and again, I'll tell you a story too. It's kind of like when you walk up to that beautiful house, you go, wow, that is a beautiful house. Look at that paint job. The lawn is manicured. The windows are beautiful. The pavement, everything. But what we forget is behind the making of that house was a lot of time, a lot of effort, costs a lot of money. There was sweat and tears. You had to deal with building a house, architects. Right, and contracts and contractors, and many times there was an existing structure that had to be torn down, and a brand new foundation had to be laid where that house was at, right? And somebody had to deal with the framers, the electricians, the plumbers, the drywallers, the tapers, the painters, the tile guy, the roofer, the stucco company, just to name a few, right? And there was many sleepless nights of husbands and wives arguing over the color of the kitchen. Right, and the appliances, the location of the trees and the shrubs, and the amount of space we need really for closets, right? When we look at the finished product, we miss, and it's no fault of anybody, we miss what's gone on behind the scenes. And so what I want to focus on today is not just the finished product, but I want to take a look and allow you to peek behind the scenes. But what happened and what happened behind these finished products, because I think there's some lessons that we can all learn. Yeah. So I'm just going to give a snapshot of a sort. Finish is ridiculous. It's not even the right word because God's not finished, right? None of these stories, as great as they are, they're not finished. So it's kind of finished of sorts. So here's a snapshot. We developed a church school partnership. We weren't allowed to use adoption, but we used partnership. This adoption or partnership was written by a Torrance school board member. It was rewritten by a school attorney. It is now a legal document, has been voted on and approved by our Torrance school board. Now the superintendent of our schools is overseeing the program. We are now currently developing a short-term 3 to 5 year comprehensive strategy to impact the Torrance Public Schools, which includes Christian students, teachers, parents, educators, staff members, pastors, their congregation, and the secular community at large. That's what we're working on right now. Why? Am I interested in schools? Yes. But what we're after in Torrance is we want to change the whole culture. Right? So that's where we're thinking. Now, that's kind of a finished product of sorts, but again, there's just a work in progress. The real story is behind the story, and that's what I want to touch on. We can learn a lot when we look back. And I believe, if I can be presumptuous, because I believe this, the Spirit is speaking to His church. Of course He is. And I want to be able to say that there are some common terms and common principles that I hear over and over and over again, and I've heard them these last day and a half, that the Spirit's speaking to the church, right? And I want to draw out and identify some common terms, some common principles, so that we can develop a common language, okay? And I believe that these terms, and I'm gonna bring them up here pretty soon, and you're gonna see it and you're gonna be nodding because you probably use these terms. Because I believe these terms and these principles lay a building framework for transformation, not just in our schools, but in our entire cities. Okay, so if you hit that first one for me, sir. So these are terms of transformation, or you could add principles. And again, these are not going to be unfamiliar to you. And September 21st, 1998, God called me. I had a vision, and He called me to unite His church. And so for 11 years, I've been doing this work. And for me not to do it is disobedient. So I'm part of a team for a nonprofit organization called Kingdom Causes. 3 months ago, and I don't know why the Lord did it, called me to pastor a congregation in Torrance. So I got kind of 2 full-time jobs. So I'm busy. So my reflections over the years have been my own, but my staff, the conversations we're having in cities throughout the nation, and because of our doctoral work, we are all over the globe. And so I'm hearing these terms not just in my city, because I think Americans, we do that. We think what's happening right here is everything in the world revolves around us. So I'm, with some trepidation, but a little bit of confidence, saying these terms, we're hearing all over the globe, okay? And what is this? Service, right? And so this is a common theme and principle that we're hearing all over. And it's this, and kind of rooted behind it is this word of love, okay? So the heart issue, as people are going into their schools and their communities, I'm hearing service. And it's about love. It's not an agenda, right? You're talking about it. Everybody's talking about it. So I've kind of drawn out the obvious. So it's about love. It's about love. And this other one is we're talking about people who are taking responsibility for our schools, right? Isn't that what we're all doing? We're taking responsibility for our schools. And we hear people saying, this is my city, right? We hear this is my school, right? In the name of Jesus, this is my Jerusalem. You have this deep, burning ownership of our communities. And I'm not talking about the angry rights group. I demand my rights. I'm a Christian. And we got those. But there's a whole different culture that's brewing. And it's not about the angry rights people. It's about this. I am accountable for my school. I'm accountable for these kids, right? So that's the spirit. And we have people more and more, they're talking about the long term. We're not talking about a project. We're not talking about a one-time event. I'm seeing people all over the place, all over the world, who say, this is my community, and I'm bearing roots in this thing. That's how I am at Torrance. Till death do us part. Till death do us part. So it allows me to be patient. It allows me to allow for the Holy Spirit, because it all doesn't have to happen tomorrow. Although part of me wants it to. I mean, I want everybody to be saved, and I feel like if somebody dies today, they don't know Jesus, I know where they're headed. So it's kind of a weird mix in my spirit. But so I'm seeing people taking this long-term perspective. Relationships, right? Aren't we hearing that over and over and over again? And I want to point out 2 things. We're talking about a movement and a term of relationships that I'm hearing over and over again about one another. Okay? We're hearing this. And we're also, I think it's important that we understand this relationship with the Holy Spirit as well. Okay? It's not an either or. So all these movements, it's about relationships. And a lot of you guys are saying, oh, it's about relationships. It is. And you know what it is? It's about relationships. But you can't separate the Holy Spirit, because really in the end of the day, He needs to be leading, right? And if we don't have a relationship with the Holy Spirit, we've got a lot of good works, but there ain't no power.